Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be a bunch of book reviews all in one. Goodreads came out with a list about their 72 most popular, including sci-fi, which we're doing today. One's a fantasy, one is up. I'll link it down below. But the 72 most popular sci-fi in the last 3 years, and I thought it would be fun to go through the whole list together. And I will be rating all of the ones that I have read and the ones that I haven't. I'll let you know if they are on my TBR or not. You can feel free to change my mind. Do you want to include a little disclaimer that popular books, recent books from Goodreads, it's been really hit and miss for me in general, so you will see that reflected in my ratings, but I'm going to be explaining what worked, what didn't in each book. That way you can decide for yourself, because just because I didn't like a book doesn't mean you're going to feel the same. So out of the 72, I have read 19 of them, so we're going to go quickly through all of them in the order that they appear on the list, just because that way I won't forget any. So first one we have is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I really adored The Martian by him. I also recommend checking out online. You can find The Egg by him. It's a novella and it's great. I didn't care for Artemis for a lot of reasons, really. So I was a little wary whenever this one came out. I was hoping I was going to enjoy it. And I do understand the criticism that the author only writes one character, which I think was part of the reason why Artemis didn't work, because from a female point of view, it really sucked. But we're back to a male point of view, which definitely worked better for him. There's a few different timelines you're following, so I'm going to keep it vague to not spoil anything, because I feel like it's better this way. But you're essentially following someone that wakes up in a spaceship and they don't know what's going on and they have to try to survive. He tends to do that, you know, surviving with your wit in space. Adore that for him. I enjoyed also the ending, keeping it vague, but it was a solid ending, and I also really liked the friendship. I think my main complaint with this one, which is the unpopular opinion, but I'm still stating it, I feel like if I compare it to The Martian, I feel like The Martian, things would come up and you would have to fix it to survive, but I still felt like the story was progressing, and I didn't feel that progression with this story. I feel like every time it would just bring the story to a pause, and it just became like too much at one point. I got a little bored, but overall I do think the book is worth reading. It just got a little, you know, tiring towards the end for me, but then it finished on a solid note. So Claire and the Sun on my TBR, haven't read that yet. Recursion by Blake Crouch, yes. I really enjoy Blake Crouch's work, his recent work. Recursion, Dark Matter, absolutely read them. If you enjoyed both of them and you want to try something else, I would recommend the Wayward Pines series by him, which is also pretty solid. I think the TV show, the ending is even better, so throwing that out there. But yes, Recursion, you're following someone who is trying to investigate. A bunch of people are basically killing themselves, and they claim to have like false memories, and they're just very confused. Honestly, you don't want to know anything else. They're thriller sci-fi. You want to go into them not knowing anything, so just do it. This is How You Lose a Time War. Okay, this is one of those books that will either work for you or won't. The writing is very lyrical, it's very pretty. Essentially, you're following two spy that travel in time, kind of fighting each other off, but they eventually fall in love. It's a beautiful book, but I just wasn't emotionally invested, so I feel like you're either gonna love this or hate this. But for me, it was kind of a meh. Worth it if that sounds like your jam, plus, oh, gay, yes. So try it or not, it's up to you. I feel like if you're a fan of like Erin Morgenstern, you might enjoy this, plus gay spies, so. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Okay, this one I had to put down. I gave up. It's 800 pages. I really forced myself for 400 pages to try to love this, but I just really didn't care for it. I had tried Aragon by the author. I read it as an adult, so it didn't help. And I wasn't a fan, so this was like a second/last chance for the author. It's an adult sci-fi. You're following a woman, something happens to her, and like there's an alien body inside of her kind of thing, which the book was definitely very fast-paced to the point that it was almost exhausting, but I hated his female character. Super mild spoiler, because again, I didn't even finish the book, but like one of the first things that happen is that the alien, whenever they go inside her body, they fix her uterus. Right there, I was already gone. So yeah, not a fan of that one, so. Gideon the Night. Okay, this is one of the weirdest books I've ever read, by far, but not in a bad way. It's like lesbian necromancers. That's how people are describing it. Yes, you're following a character who is trying to like, it's kind of a like competition to like try to survive. It's almost a fantasy book in a sci-fi context. It's all over the place. The way it ends is just so strange that I have no idea how it's going to continue, but I have book 2, like right there on my shelf. It's gonna happen, yes, but do be warned, it is strange. Exhalation, absolutely. This is like a short story collection that will give you Black Mirror vibes. So basically possible future with science, technology. Don't want to say anything else because there are a bunch of stories, but absolutely do pick it up. The School for Good Mothers on my TBR. Sea of Tranquility. Okay, I really wanted to love this, but I feel like the way the author writes her characters, because I've also read Station 11 by her, it makes me feel very distant. I just don't feel emotionally involved, but it is beautifully written. It's very short. The audiobook was about 6 hours, so it's worth a shot if that sounds appealing. But there are a few timelines. You're following someone that is trying to figure out what happened with like a time anomaly. So there's like some time traveling, a few different people you're following. It's interesting, but I just really felt disconnected. So for me, it's like meh, but you might feel differently. A Memory Called Empire. I feel like I should have loved this, but once again, I wasn't super invested. This one is definitely an unpopular opinion, so I say go for it anyway. You're following someone that is sent to replace an ambassador that was murdered, and she's trying to investigate and stay alive. So a lot of political intrigue, but like I said, I just wasn't invested for whatever reason. I really thought I was going to love this. So The Dreamers, not on my TBR. The Space Between Worlds, I'm actually surprised it's here. Were there nothing else? Because I read it and it's very, very meh, like incredibly forgettable. If you enjoy a parallel universe, you might want to try it. Otherwise, I say skip it. Just no. Not on my TBR, on my TBR. The Echo Wife. Okay, this one. The author, they have great ideas, but the execution just does not go far enough, in my opinion. In this one, you're following this woman who is brilliant, and she finds out that her husband essentially like cloned her, and her clone is like a stay-at-home wife kind of thing. And to add to it, the husband died, so that's how she finds out. And you know, things could have went so much more on the horror side, and the author just didn't go there. So I feel like the book was kind of a letdown for it. But yeah, very frustrating read, to be honest. Which you'll see, she has a fantasy book in the fantasy list, and similar. Just should have went further. A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Absolutely. She's one of my all-time favorite authors. This one is very chill, cozy, wholesome sci-fi, which is not something that is super common. You're following a non-binary monk that lives in a version of our world where one day robots got up and left us. They wanted nothing to do with us, and humanity is trying to just survive without technology or advanced technology. And they are a tea monk, so they just go and they bike from villages to villages, and they serve them tea and like chit chat with people, trying to, you know, help them with their life. But they don't know what they want to do with their life. They're not doing well. So one day they just escape to the wilderness and things happen. So very character driven, and it's just hopeful, which again, I don't read a ton of books like that, but this one was just fantastic. So yes, do it. Winter World, not my TBR. Wanderers, I DNF this book. I tried so hard. I got the audiobook 3 times from my library. So during like 60 days of owning this book, I only read like, I think 70-something%. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It started pretty good. Like it's a post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic book, and there's some artificial intelligence, but I feel like I feel like a lot of apocalyptic books tend to focus on like people walking. But like this one was just boring towards the end. I just couldn't finish it. I think it's about 900 pages. Honestly, it just wasn't worth finishing. I've heard the spoilers, and I did enjoy the idea of having like artificial intelligence included, but meh, not for me. Not on my TBR, not on my TBR. To Be Thought If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. Yes, yes. This is actually my favorite book by her. It's probably the least wholesome book by her, but it's still my favorite one. It's fantastic. You're following a crew of astronauts that are sent on a different solar system, and they explore a few planets and moons trying to find signs of life. And years happen. The book is pretty short. It's about, there you go, like 150 pages. But I couldn't put it down. I needed to figure out how it was going to end, because it begins by, if you've read nothing else we've sent home, please at least read this. The best way to make me read a book is to have such a good first sentence. So yes, absolutely, read this. Machines Like This on my TBR, and then we have a couple that aren't on my TBR or are on my TBR. I'll put it on the screen because there are quite a few. And then we have One Word Kill, which I never finished, to be honest. I'm not planning on reading more by the author, but this is a YA sci-fi, which I've kind of given up on YA, to be honest. But this one seemed interesting because you have someone like meeting like a different older version of them, and I don't know, I just lost interest, never finished it. Followers on my TBR, The Anomaly on my TBR, The Ministry for the Future on my TBR. Light from Common Stars. Okay, this was sold to me by people telling me that it was giving like Becky Chambers vibes, which, I mean, we've already established in this video that I love her. So I give this one a shot, and I agree in the beginning, but I feel like the second half kind of goes in a weird direction, and like the ending was not good. But you're following 3 timelines, or 3 main characters, three point of views. One of them is a young trans girl who is a violinist, and she escapes her family because they don't accept her. And then you're following the person I've been calling the demon lady. She made a deal with a demon, and she has to give 7 different souls to escape eternal damnation because she became a very famous musician because of the deal. And, you know, she takes under her wing the violinist. And then you have the donut lady who is an alien, and that whole point of view was just too weird for me, to be honest, and that's what brought the weird ending, and I just stopped vibing with it for the last like quarter. So is it worth it? I don't know, it really depends on your taste, but for me it was kind of a meh because of that weird tangent. The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. I didn't realize this was only 3 years old. This, yes, definitely read it. It's 100-something pages. It gives you, once again, Black Mirror vibes. So, yes. You're following a version of a world where to immigrate to the UK, you have to pass a test, but it's not really a test the way you expect. And again, it's 100 pages, so I don't want to say anything else. But if you like Black Mirror, yes, pick this up. On my TBR, not on my TBR, not. Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. Absolutely. It's about 30 pages. So like you have nothing to lose. And this was fantastic. Super short synopsis. You're following, again, version of our world where humanity, things went crazy. And you're following someone that is sent back on Earth to get something, but things don't go as planned. That's it. This was a strong 5 stars. I loved it. Not on my TBR, on my TBR. On my TBR, not on my TBR, not. And then we get to Upgrade by Blake Crouch, which is where I want to mention how questionable this whole list is. Because Goodreads, I love you, but like, what is this? Because this book was published July 12th, and this list was published July 6th. This is what I mean by like things sometimes with Goodreads are questionable. I did actually just finish this book, and I don't feel like it's as good as Dark Matter and Recursion. Did want to put that out there. I do think a lot of people will enjoy it. Personally, it has a trope that I don't really care for. I can mention in the comment section if you're curious, but I feel like it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler. But again, in the version of a world where humanity started editing DNA, horrible things have been happening because of it. So obviously government is trying to arrest everyone that is a geneticist. One main character working for them because his mother was responsible for some of the horrible stuff. And one day he's stuck in a trap, something happens to him, and that's how the whole story starts. And the potential was there, but I just didn't love it as much as the rest of his work. I feel like it wasn't, well, it's not that it wasn't as scientific and science heavy, it just, I didn't care for the trope he used, essentially. So for me, it was kind of a meh. You were probably going to still try it if you enjoyed the rest of his stuff, I know. But personally, meh, I kind of wish I didn't read it. Not on my TBR, definitely not on my TBR. Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Yes, I actually bought this book. It's on my shelf. I'm hoping to read it before the end of the year because I love his stuff. I really enjoyed Children of Time. Do read that if you are into sci-fi, First Contact with Aliens, Giant Intelligent Spiders, do it. And then a bunch of books that aren't on my TBR. I'll put them on the screen. And then we have Dead Silence, which I had kind of given up on horror because I really hate open endings and they're so common. Like so common, and I just can't stand it because I don't care what the answer is. I don't care if it's aliens, disease, ghost. It can be ghost. Just give me something. And there's a satisfying ending in this one. Obviously not telling you. But you're following a crew that finds this ship that disappeared a while ago that contained a bunch of like rich and famous people. And they go and explore trying to figure out what happened to them, and it's great. The only thing is that there's an unnecessary romance in here, but overall, solid horror sci-fi. And then we have a lot of books that aren't on my TBR, and then a few that are. I'll put them on the screen as we go because there's a bunch, and I don't want to read all the titles with my accent. So hopefully these quick little reviews gave you an idea which ones to pick, which ones not to pick. I told you, it's been very, very hit and miss, especially once again, the popular new releases that are the big hits on Goodreads, which again, kind of questionable, right? With the whole like Upgrade being on that list, I don't get it. I just really don't get it. So I would love to hear your thoughts on either the books that I've read or just in general the ones that are on that list. Which ones should I add on my TBR or put it higher because you think I'm going to love them? Because I want to know. I want to know. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will link down below the fantasy version whenever it's up, and I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out. And I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.
On a cheek or loving just like we